With the recent Israeli drone attack against an Iranian military facility in the world news, Iran is finding itself in an even tougher geopolitical situation. Iran is not only fighting something akin to a proxy war against Israel on top of dealing with international sanctions, but also her recent dealings with Russia are a cause for concern both in Europe and in the Middle East. Since Russia's special military operation in Ukraine kicked off in February 2022, the Russian Federation and Islamic Republic of Iran have deepened ties. Why have Russia and Iran been drawn closer together? What does the closer relationship between Russia and Iran mean for the world as a whole? Relations between Russia and Iran weren't always this way. In 1521, the Grand Duchy of Muscovy and Safavid Persia established formal diplomatic relations after centuries of trade between the two. As the Russian Empire expanded, she would eventually clash with Persia. This culminated in a series of wars between the two powers. In 1813, Russia and Persia signed the Treaty of Gulistan. In this treaty, Persia was forced to concede much of its territory to the Russian Empire. In addition, Russia was forced to provide military assistance to the heir to the Persian throne in the event of a foreign intervention. Also, Russia was given exclusive rights to a navy on the Caspian Sea, and Russian merchants were permitted to trade freely in Persia, and Persian merchants likewise in Russia. In 1828, Persia and Russia concluded the Treaty of Turkmenchai. The Treaty of Turkmenchai established a state of peace and friendship between the two powers. The Russo-Persian border was demarcated along the river Arax. Additional land concessions were made by Persia to Russia in present-day Armenia. Persia was to allow Armenians free entry into this new territory within the Russian Empire. This in turn would unite the Armenian people in one land under the Russian sphere. Russia was also given the fortress of Abbasabad and the land immediately surrounding it. On top of this, Russia obtained the full right to navigate the entire Caspian Sea, and Persia was forced to pay 20 million Russian rubles in silver as reparations. Russian merchants were once more allowed to trade freely within Persia's borders. In return, Russia recognized the Persian Shah as heir. These humiliating treaties have not been forgotten among Iran's leaders. In the Agreement of 1907, Russia and Britain delineated their spheres of influence within the region. In 1921, the Soviet Union signed a treaty of friendship with the Persians. This treaty proved to be more advantageous to the Persians, and the USSR even went on to denounce the previous 1907 agreement. In 1921, Reza Shah, an officer in Iran's Cossack Brigade, took power. In a similar fashion to Russian Tsar Peter the Great, Reza Shah used the coercive force of the state to modernize his country. He enacted conscription, ballooning the size of the army. Reza Shah also purchased foreign weapons and sent military advisors abroad for training too. Comprehensive judicial reform was another important achievement of Reza Shah's reign. He reformed Persia's legal system along French lines. Reza Shah instituted a system of primary and secondary schools throughout the country open to both girls and boys. Tehran University, the country's first university, opened in 1936, open to men and women. On the other hand, Reza Shah instituted a uniform dress code in 1929 requiring all men, with the exception of clergy, to wear European-style jackets. In 1927, Reza Shah ordered all Persian men to wear the Pahlavi hat, a hat similar to the French kepi. The Iranian press was controlled by the state. Election results were often of dubious validity, and Reza Shah crushed his political rivals forcefully. Reza Shah was deposed in 1941 after a joint Anglo-Soviet invasion. In 1953, a US-supported coup toppled Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and installed Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, restoring the Iranian monarchy. This regime worked closely with the United States as one of its partners in the Middle East. Indeed, Israel cultivated closer ties with the Shah's Iran as part of its periphery doctrine, which called for Israel to align itself with non-Arab and non-Muslim countries and minority groups in the Middle East, such as Iran and Turkey. In 1979, the Shah was overthrown, and in his place came Ayatollah Khomeini. Russo-Iranian relations have become closer in recent years. Iran, like Russia and like China, favor a multipolar world in which the US plays a less dominant role. Russia launched an Iranian satellite into orbit in August 2022. Roscosmos announced that it had launched Iran's Khayyam satellite, named for 11th century Persian poet Omar Khayyam, from a facility in southern Kazakhstan. Iran has been accused of supplying Russia with drones, which have been used in the ongoing Ukraine conflict. According to an article by Forbes, Russian forces have been using Iranian-made drones against Ukraine's power grid, Tehran has exported loitering munitions such as the Shahed-136 drone to Russia and is expected to receive Russian-made Su-35 fighter jets in return. Currently, Iran is limited in terms of which weapons can be legally exported as a result of UN Resolution 2231. The ban on exporting conventional weapons under the resolution expired in 2020. Even more importantly, in October 2023, the ban on exporting longer-range munitions and weapon systems with payloads greater than 500 kilograms will be lifted. This will loosen the reins on Iran's weapons exports to Russia. Even more critical to Russia is Iran's expertise on circumventing sanctions. Iran and Russia have forged closer ties between their respective central banks. Direct channels of financial communication have been opened between Iranian banks and more than 800 financial institutions within the Russian Federation. Both countries have recently signed a memo of understanding. Iranian state media have reported this recent agreement as a workaround to Western sanctions against both countries and have compared it to the SWIFT system that Moscow was kicked out of following Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. SWIFT is a global financial communication system designed to provide banks around the world with a secure way to send and receive payments and information. The deepening ties between Tehran and Moscow are cause for concern in the Middle East. Iran and Israel fighting a proxy war of their own could witness an escalation in tensions. Russia's sale of weapons to the Tehran regime, a regime sponsoring proxy groups to operate against Israel, could open up the possibility of Israel providing more substantial aid to Ukraine. Also of great importance is Israel's relationship with Azerbaijan. Baku and Jerusalem have grown closer in recent years. Cultivating closer ties with Baku is another component of Israel's previously mentioned periphery doctrine. Another factor pushing Israel and Azerbaijan closer together is a common enemy in Iran. Iran has been conducting military exercises on its border with Azerbaijan and is aligning itself closer to Armenia, another enemy of Azerbaijan. In the face of Western sanctions, Russia has looked to Turkey, a supporter of Azerbaijan, to help fill the economic gaps. With Moscow's stature weakened as a result of the ongoing war in Ukraine and as a consequence of her increasingly close relationship with Ankara and Baku, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan could see tensions flare up to a dangerous level. However, the relationship between Iran and Russia is not exactly a match made in heaven. The leadership in Tehran still harbors distrust toward Russia. Also worth mentioning is that the trade between Russia and Iran remains somewhat minimal at over $4 billion as of 2022. About half of Iranians view Russia in a negative light. Indeed, opinions on Russia are more negative in Iran than in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia, two of America's closest partners in the Middle East. Russo-Iranian relations have also been marred by the bungling of the Bushehr nuclear power plant. The plant was set to become operational in 2001 following an agreement between Tehran and a Russian firm valued at over $800 million. The project ended up costing more than $11 billion and took decades to complete due to constant Russian postponements. The closer ties between Moscow and Tehran are worthy of close examination. While the two share a common enemy in the form of the United States, Russo-Iranian relations face a number of challenges. Still, the prospect of even closer cooperation between the two countries could produce far-reaching ripple effects. What long-term effects will the war in Ukraine have on the Middle East? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.